Yeah! Woo!
Wrenching it up. Gonna wrench it up.
Welcome to Saturday's Wrench.
Wrench-a-roo.
What's going on, everyone? Yeah, I know. I cleaned it up. I'm looking fantastic and beautiful. Does this mean I lose my hipster status? I don't know. Anyways, welcome back to the program. Today we're going to take the whole clutch assembly off and also the oil pump and the oil filter here. So I need to get the seals on the oil filter, the whole oil pump and everything. I need to get those looked at and replaced. I also need to check the friction plates in the clutch assembly here to make sure they're not worn down too much, and check and see if I need to replace those. So we'll get at this assembly today and we'll hopefully get all this out of the way. And I'm still working on the top end here. Sent those parts away to Bortec to get machined. So I'm pretty excited to get those back. It's going to be a few more weeks, but I figured I might as well do as much work as I can while I'm waiting. So let's get at it. So I'm just going to start by removing this circlip here. I got these little trusty circlip pliers. My dad bought me these little set here. They're a little hard to hold, but I guess they're probably getting in small spaces. So we just need to compress this circlip, and it should come out after that. So there's your circlip. So I'm just going to remove that out of the way. So now there's this oil filter cap here. So that should just come right out now. So you can see that. That's your oil filter cap. Inside, you're going to find this bolt in there that has like little ridges. So I had to buy this spanner tool. It's called an oil filter spanner tool. I've seen guys actually make these things from old sockets. You could do that. Unfortunately, I don't have the tools and equipment here to do it, but well, this will cost you around 20 bucks, anywhere from 10 to 20 bucks depending on where you live. But good old eBay, Motion Pro. Next, what we need to do is see, this clutch assembly is spinning. So what I need to do is just wedge something in between the gears down here so it doesn't turn. So I have this little wedge from my workbench table here. So I'm just going to wedge it in, make sure that doesn't come out, and then I'll remove these 4 bolts here for the clutch assembly.
Ha! In your face, you big dummy!
So these hex bolts, they hold behind here. You're going to find some clutch springs. So try not to lose any pieces. Definitely going to need to put this back together eventually. So I'll get on about removing these. So you can see there's a little washer and the spring, and then this little hex bolt holding that all in place. So I'll keep these all together and then I'll remove them all. Also, I'm going to check the wear on these and see if they need replacing. So in the manual it should tell you how long is an acceptable wear amount. So I'll check on that and I'll get back to you on that one, and then we'll check that and see if we need to replace them. Okay, so now that I've got all the 4 hex bolts and the springs out of the way, we can remove this pressure plate, it's called. There we go. So I'm just going to remove this pressure plate. So you can see the pressure plate there. So these are all your friction and steel plates. So I'm just going to slide these out of the clutch assembly here, and they should all slide out together. So you can see your clutch plates, and these are your friction plates, and this is your steel plate. So what I have to do with these is check with a vernier caliper, as I need to check the thickness and make sure these haven't compressed too much, and to make sure they're not worn too much. So we'll do that in a bit. I'll get the rest of the assembly off, and then we'll go about checking the values on these to make sure they're still usable. I'm just going to remove this push crown, it's called. It sits right in the middle. Okay, so next what we need to do is, I'm not too sure if you can see it. I'll try and shine some light in there. but in the back, behind this funny little looking bolt here, you have these tabs. And if you saw my video on the when I disassembled the rear wheel, it has this like mechanism where it clutches on to the bolt so that it doesn't spin off. So that's exactly what you have here. You have behind this funny bolt here that this guy will fit onto. Behind that bolt you have this mechanism where it has these like teeth almost gripping around that bolt. So what we need to do is flatten them. So what I'm going to do is take a screwdriver and take my rubber mallet and just going to try and flatten the bolt out so that I can get to that funny shaped bolt here and twist it off. So I'm just going about flattening those little teeth. It's really easy. I'm just taking a rubber mallet and really softly just pushing them out of the way. So just be careful. Take your time. I don't know how we're gonna get them bent back, but for now they're out of the way, and now I can take my special little spanner tool here, and it should plug right into it and be able to twist it right off. So now that I've bent back those locking tabs, I can take that locking nut off with my special spanner tool here. So what I need to do is just lock the engine from turning. So once I fit this in there, I'm just going to turn it. I'm going to stick a screwdriver in between the gears here, so that shouldn't go anywhere. Just be careful not to damage the teeth, but this should start coming off here. And so yeah, so that's pretty loose. And I can start getting this lock nut off. There we go. So you can see how well that lock nut fits inside this spanner tool here. See that there? So this is your lock nut here. You definitely want to hold on to that. So just set that aside, and we'll make sure to put that back later. I should be able to just slide this whole oil filter housing out. Oh, so we got the O-ring in the back there that just fell out, and then you got a washer, and then these are your locking tabs. And you can see what I mean about how they bend over top of that lock nut. So yeah, so these bend right over top of that lock nut, holding it in place. So hold on to that too. Need to do some research and figure out how we lock that back together. So I'll figure that out. So got some beautiful sludge inside here. It's probably normal. So there's a snap ring here, so I'm just gonna try and remove it here, and then we can move on, get in the primary drive off. So these snap rings, sometimes you need to pinch them, sometimes you need to open them up. So that's why you gotta have different set of snap ring pliers here. So these ones pull them in, and these ones pull them apart. So I'm just gonna take this snap ring off, and I'll be right back. I've got that snap ring out of the way. So this thing's called your clutch hub. So let's get it out of the way. And the next thing I need to do is remove this primary drive for the oil filter. So just slide this out. There should be a washer behind it. Looks like the washer's a little bit stuck. I'm just looking at getting that later. So here's just need to loosen up the thrust washer. It was just stuck on a little bit on the back because of all the oil. So then there's your thrust washer. Get that out of the way. Now what I need to do is remove these hex bolts so I can get the oil pump out. And you're going to come and see that they have little tabs too. Little 10mm hex bolts here. Let's get those out of the way. So we're just removing these bolts. So now that we've removed all the bolts, this whole assembly should come out together because it's connected right here. And so this whole thing should slide out all together. All together now. And there we go. And there's your screen back here for your oil pump. And you can see how this works. So this is a really neat mechanism. So this like plunger fits into the pump, and as you turn, as your clutch spins, you can see it here. Look at that. Yeah! Woo! Fucking just gives her on the pump here. So that's pumping your oil around. So that's pretty cool. It's a smart little setup here. So you can see the back of that and how that works. Pretty neat. Who thinks of this shit? It's pretty amazing. And now we have the whole side of the engine exposed here. You have your clutch here. Pretty cool. There are some bits of metal I'm seeing and some plastic. I think that's normal. I'm surprised that the screen didn't catch them. I'm gonna have to disassemble this and see if, I don't even know if it comes apart yet. I haven't really gotten that far into my manual yet, but you can tell after you take all this stuff off, you're gonna see a lot at the bottom here. You're gonna see a lot of sludge and just general, but I can feel it's super gritty, and it's plastic and metal, so I think that's mostly normal. You don't want that sucking up into your engine. That's no good. So this is good. I feel good that I've gotten this apart so I can inspect all this stuff, and when I place the new parts in the engine, they're not gonna be affected by all this garbage down here. So next what I need to do is disengage the shift shaft here. You can see how that works. So that catches onto your gear here. So I just need to remove this and slide it out basically. And it should come right out. There's one unit. So that's on the other side, on your left side of your engine. That would be your pedal shifters here. So when you press, you're clicking in the shifter. What's that doing is moving this mechanism on this side, which affects your gears. So that tells your engine what gear to go into. So next, this is your kickstarter here. So I have to remove all this mechanism here. So you have a washer. There is a circlip under here. So I'm just going to get that out of the way. So slide that out. Keep all that together. There we go. It's a pretty neat mechanism. Honestly, whoever thinks of this shit is amazing. So that would be your kickstarter, and I'll make sure I keep all these parts together. So you have your circlip, your washer, and then your spring here. And all that's basically left to do, there's a push rod inside this clutch mechanism here, the clutch gear. So from the left side of the engine over here, I'm just going to pull it through. And you can see this push rod. Okay guys, now you can see all my clutch and my oil filter and pump assembly parts. What I'm going to do next is I need to get a vernier caliper and measure the thickness of those clutch plates and also the springs. So I'm going to measure those, make sure they're not overly worn. I may need to order some new plates. I probably will end up doing that anyways. Those plates can get slippery after a while. So it looks daunting, it looks like a lot of parts here, but try and keep everything organized, and it's not too bad. So you have your manual and you just want to stick to it. By the way, I just want to say shout out to my friend Lawrence who sent me this manual for free. Super nice guy, and this is the kind of people you're going to meet in the motorcycle community. He didn't have to send me this, but he's super nice. I met him on a forum and he sent me this great manual for nothing. So he had it lying around. He even inscribed it for me, and which I thought was pretty cool. So thank you, Lawrence, for that. And I'm using your manual. It's coming in really handy. So thanks again, buddy. So I found the specs for my clutch disc specifications. So you can see it says model 250 and 350. Standard thickness 0.106 inches or 2.7 millimeters. And my wear limit is 0.0905 inches and 2.3 millimeters. So what we're going to do right now is take my caliper and measure the thickness of that plate here. Well, it seems to be standard thickness. Actually, if not even bigger. Standard thickness is 2.7 and my wear limit is 2.3. So I'm going to call these a good set of clutch plates. They look to be within the limit of wear, so I'll go ahead and check all the plates and make sure that they're all to spec. So I'm just doing my clutch springs now. So the standard spec for these springs are 31.9, and I'm getting a 32.24 reading, which is good. So they're a little larger than what spec is. The wear limit on these springs for the 350 is 30.2, so we're well above that. So I'm gonna measure the rest of them and make sure they're good, but I would call these clutch springs good. Alright guys, I think I'm all done for today. I've got the clutch assembly off. We took the oil filter off and we took the oil pump off. We've got to get the oil pump apart, probably do that in another video, but I'm feeling good about everything. I measured all the plates, seem to be all in spec. The springs seem to be all in spec, and so I'll save a little bit of money there. So what's next is basically still waiting for this, while we wait for this engine, the top end to be machined. I want to get the wheels and laced up, the wheels and the rims all laced up, and I've got the frame back from the powder coat, so it's looking beautiful. I gotta get that. I'll show you guys that in the next episode. I'm gonna take it back to the workshop at my parents' garage, and when we get inside there, I'll show you guys the paint job. It looks pretty nice, and get everything ready. So the wheels are next. Gonna try and get the wheels laced up and get the forks back together. I'm still waiting on some tubes to get re-chromed. So yeah, there's lots of stuff coming up. So thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. If you could hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and we could still got a lot more stuff to do with this bike. We'll get it back together, and it's going to be looking pretty nice. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you until next time.
Wrenching it up, gonna wrench it up, yeah. Wrench, wrenchity-roo, wrench-roo.